Everybody, how are you guys doing? We are very excited to have you here at VRAR with the best.
All of these things have to be done in this stream of the motion that's detected, and in a gadget you can have a 20 millisecond delay in some of the older phones, for example, before the sensors pick it up and pass it on to the CPU, which passes on the imagery that you need to create to the GPU and to the screen, and then computes what's necessary to put it on the screen before we see it in our eye. It started with just 2 engineers in our Paris office, and there are now hundreds of people on that team. We're making it ourselves, but we're also licensing it out so third parties can make their own versions of this and making it open source so they're free to experiment with it. It's much more natural to be able to just look whichever way you want and to be able to point at things to select them. Even a linear story can be experienced in a nonlinear fashion if you can choose by looking in different directions to actually see which part of the story you want to look at next.
The first thing you're going to do when you get into Newton VR, you've downloaded it, you've opened the scene, you want to configure your player. You just click this button and it opens the Scene VR project. So I can reach up here and pick one off the tree.
Each one of these individual balls here is a scene. Hovering my reticle over that spot, or by clicking on it.
So Viveport is probably the easiest way to get into the VR arcades. So I would advise you to go to HTC and talk to them about how to get into the VR arcade business.
That's exactly what good content should look like, right? It should be balanced.
Users are looking a certain way and they're behaving very similarly while watching these kind of content, and we just draw a circle and kind of almost using machine learning to segment out this being a category, and we can name it whatever later.
For several years, we've developed out back-end platforms for studios, broadcasters, and telecommunications companies that were focused on mobile content.
So when you pull back on the arrow, you really feel a vibration, and it feels like you're pulling that arrow back. So they're mostly still just working with the trigger and the movement mechanics here, but they've combined them in a pretty fun way. You want to be able to feel the world, and ideally, there's been some interesting prototypes of things that make it feel like, if you're pulling a door, like it has some weight to it. They can shift weight around to make it feel like it's pulling back, and that's really interesting.
Cross-visual platform buttons that you can trigger by looking at them, by touching, by dragging, by whatever. But they work, and it's a single thing that you implement once, and then bam, you're done. So it doesn't matter which system you're going to use, it's going to work. UI is pretty complex, so when you have a draft that you're happy with, use it and reuse it. It's going to be useful. Be very smart when you code, when you render stuff. Be cheap and smart at the same time. I mean, this is a generic, I think, advice that could go in any kind of development.
Going back to the presence, this is where one of the biggest challenge with all the existing hardware. So amazing samples to begin with, and the community is just amazing. So what we designed is a game that works both on VR and non-VR. Technology-wise, this is fairly easy to achieve using Unity and Euphoria plugins.
We have these objects which we call material orbs, and that's the important thing. The asset for the material, it essentially becomes a thing. It becomes an object that you can grab, you can move it around, you can give it to other people, you can place it in some public space to publish it. It not only made the creation super simple, and it made it super simple to create beautiful environments, but it also made it very fun. So actually you felt like you were building things with your mind, as you had the control over the laws of physics of the virtual world yourself.
Translating our skeleton data to the now, and we're wearing a virtual reality headset, in this case the Oculus, we can see everything from the point of view of the robot. So we have an out-of-body experience. And now enjoy our video where we are demonstrating this. Yeah. So here you can see in the right corner, I'm standing and I have the Oculus on. And as you can see, as I move my head, the head of the robot moves exactly the same way.
Welcome. Those are haptic feedback suits, which we make. We also make the software applications behind them. C# code created haptics. So you can create sequences and then you can add the sequences to patterns, whatnot. You can also create file-defined haptics, which are largely similar to code-created haptics, but where we can make files and use them across multiple spots in the same project or across multiple different projects.
So looking down at the CPU section at the bottom, you can see that there's bigger chunks of work, and the cores are actually being utilized, and it results in a more dynamic and cool scene like that. So this is like kind of meeting in the middle, and the way you can do it is you can detect, are you on a low system, a medium system, or a high-end system? It's still taking relatively, a high chunk of the CPU time, but you could do a lot more with the other things.
So if you were looking at this frame and you were trying to decide where the bottleneck is, where you need to get more performance, we can see that the base pass is the biggest part of all of the work. And in this instance, the base pass is transforming geometry and shading it and then making the images. Flex is our particle-based physics engine, and what that enables us to do is to mix liquids and solids together and make physics simulations where liquids and gels interact with solid objects.
Rendering is one thing. I mean, if you pre-create an experience, you can take someone through a very, very detailed experience easily. But think about the fact now that the computer also has to engage in creating physics-based interactions, and it's mediating AI as well that drives some of the non-player characters. So you're talking about a lot of CPU and GPU titles, or cycles rather. And so that's our challenge as well.
The back end of all of this, of course, is application of AI, both to an array processor that goes through not just transactional logic, but organization rules and workflow logic.
Basically, we give them the ability to build this quickly and easily.
Hello, my name's Olga, and I'm senior software engineer. At CrowdOptic, we work with cutting-edge technology with smart glasses, and we do live streaming and have patterns for analyzing sensors. This is the Crowd Eye at the top, and at the bottom it's the glass, Google Glass. Each of these devices have sensors to identify GPS location and heading. We use FFmpeg, Spring, Angular, Bootstrap, and many more. For our SIP implementation, we started with command line utility, CP. That's a good start to combine all ready-to-use solutions. Only after that, revise to see what you have and if you really need that third-party software, or instead if you can focus on developing your own.
Once the track markers come into the position, they get tracked by the mobile phone's camera. And on the mobile phone's camera, what you would see is a virtual reality simulation. We've gained a great interest amongst the surgical communities, especially with medical students and trainee surgeons. Surgeons need haptic force feedback. If you're not able to provide it, please do not go through saying that this is a surgical simulation tool or not. We were trying to help dental students perform the dental anesthesia properly using, using a virtual reality-based trainings.
You can see that neuron model laid into a user interface in Unity, and this is that triangulated nightmare mesh. We added colliders to them. We gave the colliders physics. And then we implemented the leap motion, which was what we really wanted to do, to be able to reach into the screen and actually touch the models.
You can use this system to switch on and off the lights, showing the differences and effects of lights you choose on your building.
Zapbox is our cardboard approach to HoloLens, if you like. So for 100 times less than the cost of the HoloLens dev kit, we can give you a flavor of these mixed reality experiences. The thought behind that was, how can we offer room scale tracking without requiring massive image targets? So here's a prototype we've received from our cardboard partners in Germany. Sprung trigger action there. There's an amazing bit of engineering, which is top secret, so I can't show you how we've done that.
A few months ago, I co-founded Opuscope with Soraya Jabert, a startup doing mixed and virtual reality in Paris. It was described in 1994 as a virtuality continuum. On one side, you have the real environment, and on the other side, you have the virtual environment. Mixed reality is in between. It is described by Microsoft as the very first, world's first, untethered holographic computer. How to convince your customers to use mixed reality? You will be ready when the other companies or the competition you have will just start to think about it and what they can do with it. So you will be considered as a leader and not as a follower. That's really important here.
And the highest simplified version is called Presence. And to me, Presence is a combination of these two senses. To truly anchor virtual or synthetic content in the real world, you've got to have some sort of analytical model of the current environment. And then that's where computer vision and artificial intelligence come in. Is there a model we can come up with that is both commercially viable, but also enhances everyone's life? Could we understand what's happening enough with those optical illusions to take advantage of them and actually do really cool things?
So WebVR itself, just on a base level, can be difficult to use. And that's where Primrose comes in. Primrose is meant to be a very simple framework for building virtual reality applications. It's meant to mirror building JavaScript applications in a web development style. We use water as our ground texture. Fog is a fading of the view into the distance. So if we set this to false and we reload the page, you can see that the ground goes way off into the distance. That's 25 meters away. That line back there in line.
When we reach out and touch something, we have something called sensory substitution. We don't have very good haptics in virtual reality currently. So instead, if you just highlight the object as well as provide an audio sound, something so ridiculously simple and easy to implement can just add so much, sort of that multimodal perception and action.
You can see here there's a gaze heat map for this particular user. There's this green path for where they teleported around. There's these red exclamation marks for different events, different performance events, right? So in this area, they had some lag and stuff like that. People in real estate can just jump into VR. They can check out how people are using their scene afterwards and see, okay, this person bought a house. Let's look at, why they bought it. Okay, they were really paying attention to, the stove over here or something like that, right? And then even you could hear their qualitative feedback if you end up asking it.
It doesn't make sense to invest all that time and energy into creating VR content and then require someone to download a standalone specific app to be able to see it. So what we built is the ability with one upload to seamlessly host and promote that virtual reality and 360 content across every platform, everywhere. But a brand new, easy to use UI where you can completely customize the experience. I think there's an amazing opportunity if you're creating gaming experiences to export parts of those experiences into 360 videos that you can then push out on the web, push out on Twitter, host on your blog or on your website, or share with reporters so they can actually talk about it.
We have no common language for players, let alone for designers. So we have to be very clear what it is we're trying to do, and to do something simple, but do it beautifully. We're in an era where we have to be simple, not just because of all the things I've said, but because the budgets we're going to be playing with, if we want a fighting chance of giving our investors a return on their money, it's going to be relatively small.
What they get from you, well, this is a revenue deal. So they take cash off the table after the product is launched. So what they give up, what you give up for that is often creative control of the IP itself. You often give up the IP and assign it to the publisher as well. They may have the rights to make version 2, 3, 4. It may be exclusive deals. It may be exclusive to specific platforms.
And that is a way of really putting yourself in someone else's shoes, quite literally. It's an incredibly powerful project that's been touring the world.
So keep in mind the spectatorship. That's huge, guys. Keep in mind the streaming aspect of it, and keep in mind that people want to record videos, GIFs, and pictures and things of your experience so that they can share it out. Make it as simple and easy as possible to do that, and you'll get a lot of great results that way.
If you identify a real problem, that's what we did. We focused on the problem, how to solve that, how to build a business around that, and let the rest of the hardware and the actual technical solutions kind of catch up, because this stuff is iterating so fast and leapfrogging.
It's actually been interesting to see sort of how traditional game developers interact with VR, because they have the skill set, you know, they have Unity knowledge, they have animation knowledge, they have modeling knowledge that they can then apply toward, you know, some other passion that they may have.
Well, thanks so much with the best.
Have a good weekend.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Yeah. Bye-bye.
I hope that a lot of you develop your own VR and AR and share your results with people freely. That in general, I think this is an industry that benefits a lot from shared vision. I want to thank everybody here. This has been a really fun experience.
Thank you all for coming. Sweet. See you next time.
Thanks a lot, and bye-bye. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Take care, guys. Hope to see y'all soon. All right. Bye.
Yeah.